As I sit here and think about this, another reality has hit me upside the head. It's not the kids today that are the problem, because kids are always a problem. It's today's adults that are the problem. It's today's adults that I don't have any faith in or that I wonder about. You know, it used to be when I was young, whether you thought adults were screwballs or nerds or kooks or what, you still thought they were adults. They were mature. They were smarter. They were reliable. You could count on them for wisdom and advice. And today, I think that's what I am questioning. And who are the adults today? My generation, the boomers, the baby boomers, the most spoiled, rotten generation in history. And yes, I'm one of them. Not spoiled, rotten. I mean, my generation has among it some of the most spoiled, rotten people in the history of the country. I think you look at the kids today, the biggest single change from my generation when I was young to today is that when I was a teenager, early 20s, things weren't so politicized. The culture wasn't as politicized. School wasn't as politicized. Not where I grew up, certainly. The liberals took over education after World War II. It was just starting. I'll tell you, what happened was the major universities prior to World War II had been bastions of the WASPs, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. After World War II, they opened their doors, and the intellectuals and the multiculturalists poured in there, and that's when the transformation began. The liberal transformation. I mean, liberals have not always owned education. No, they haven't. That's the point. But certainly, entertainment was not nearly as politicized when I was today. Every actor is a Meryl Streep. I'm reading a novel right now about pre-World War II France, and it centers on a fictitious American actor who is in France making a movie, and he's being hit on by Germans and Nazis to be threatened and pressured into becoming a Nazi propagandist. And in the novel, which is historically accurate, he ends up getting screwed by a journalist. He gives an interview what he thinks is promoting his movie. It turns out the story ends up how he's a Nazi sympathizer. And his producers in Hollywood call it, get the politics out. Everybody goes to the movies. We don't want your political views. Now, we've always had liberals in entertainment, but it used to be very bad to be a liberal in entertainment. Lillian Hellman, Dashiell Hammett, those days, the blacklist used to be very, very bad to be now it's a resume requirement that you be a liberal to be entertainment and that you be public about it. And they don't care about the box office. Now, sports is still that way. Michael Jordan, a big Democrat, he's never going to tell you that. We still don't know what Tiger Woods' politics are because everybody buys golf clubs, T-shirts, and golf shirts, all that kind of stuff, tennis shoes, so forth. They want to sell everybody. They don't care. But Hollywood, long time ago, gave up the ghost. I didn't have any left-wing teachers. Yeah, I mean, even through high school, I didn't have liberalism pumped at me each and every day. Not like your kids have it pumped at them. I did not have it. So that is a transformational change. And the transformational change did not happen by accident. And it is true. Most entertainers shied away from politics. Only the biggest names, the Sinatras and so forth, could identify. But look who they identified with. People that were universally popular, the Kennedys and so forth. We used to live in a country where people wanted to be successful. People wanted to be millionaires. Today, we live in a country where people want to receive a government check, and wanting to be a millionaire is said to be bad. Wanting to be successful, wanting to be a millionaire is said to be greedy and selfish. Well, what is more greedy and selfish than living off of other people? And yet that is what is championed today. Receiving a government check, that is said to be good. That's fairness. This is where Obama and the left have taken us. Failure is now accepted, not stigmatized. It's, in fact, in some cases encouraged. Failure is how you excuse being discriminated against. It's a badge of honor. CNN, look at CNN, for crying out loud. 100,000 viewers. And within the news business, CNN is treated as though they are heroic because they haven't given up. They haven't given up the cause. Despite audience abandonment, profit, and so they haven't given it up. Failure is accepted. It's lionized. It's explained away. In some cases, encouraged. And it is now subsidized. And it's subsidized on the basis that the failure that people encounter or engage in is somebody else's fault. It's sociopathic. Today's failures are victims of the 1%. Today's failures are victims of George Bush, victims of Republicans, victims of the Founding Fathers, victims of an unfair capitalistic culture. And as such, failure in some places is a badge of honor, and so we subsidize it. Meanwhile, more and more liberal billionaires are dropping U.S. citizenship and fleeing overseas. Have you heard about Denise Rich? Mark Rich's wife is renouncing her citizenship and fleeing the country to avoid taxes, and this woman is a multi-billionaire. Eric Holder got the pardon for her husband, Mark Rich, who was a criminal in the commodities markets. He can't come back to the United States without being arrested and sent to jail. Denise Rich is his ex-wife, big-time liberal fundraiser, entertainer, social doyen, homes in New York, Aspen, Saint-Tropez, you name a big 150-foot yacht with some of the biggest parties of the summer. Off the coast of the south of France, she's renouncing her citizenship. A liberal Democrat billionaire. This guy, one of the co-founders of Facebook, Eduardo Saverin, liberal, renouncing his citizenship. Liberal billionaires fleeing overseas. The question, ladies and gentlemen, is can we as a country pull together to rid ourselves of this president and the poison that is his administration and his parties? We can't rely on others to do this. We have to do this ourselves. We can't rely on Republican leadership. We can't rely on Romney. I don't think the Republican establishment has the slightest. In fact, if anybody in the Republican establishment's listening to me, they probably think I'm off my rocker. They're still stuck in the traditional, we can win this race on the economy. But I'm here to tell you the sad truth is the economy is not pivotal because it's not painful. Unemployment isn't painful. 46 million Americans on food stamps with more signing up every day. 48% not paying any income tax. 3 million more off the unemployment rolls and on disability. It's sadly not a big deal. It's not something that a whole lot of Americans care enough about to want to change. So can we pull together to rid ourselves of this president and the poison? And by pull ourselves together, can we rally enough people to vote against Obama? And to show them that it is in their best interests for this administration to not be reelected. I just don't think we can rely on the traditional political establishments to bring this off. You remember during the primaries, we all talked. You people, you would call, and we would talk about what kind of campaign Romney would run if he got the nomination. We all said it better not be a McCain campaign. It better get rid of this first black president stuff. That's 4 years in the history books. It doesn't matter anymore. We got the country to save, all that. And we asked, you and I, we would talk and ask each other, will Romney treat Obama the same way he treated Newt Gingrich or Santorum? And he better. Whether he does it or his super PACs, he'd better. That's what it's going to take. He can't just run around and cite economic statistics and expect that to rally people. The polling data shows that ain't going to work. Romney should be up by 25 points if this were the America of 30 years ago. But sadly, it isn't. This has to be a repeat of 2010, where we show up and push back and make things happen. Tea Party et al. The other side's out there selling class warfare, which is snake oil. And the question is, how much snake oil do we all want to drink? Yeah, it's the adults today that are the problem. The baby boomers and the youth they had and the adults they became. That's the problem, not the younger generation. In fact, I frankly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the younger generations are going to ultimately be who save us. Because I don't think they're going to inherit this kind of country. And they'll do something about it. That's what happens every third or fourth generation anyway. They say, I'm going to live the way my parents did. I don't want the kind of life my parents had, whatever it was. And they go about changing it. I evolved a theory about the baby boom generation. We had to invent our traumas in order to tell ourselves how tough life was. In fact, baby boomers, we don't really know how tough life was for our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. Can't fathom it. Anyway, maybe I'll repeat that. It's an interesting theory, questionable